All right, good afternoon. I'm super happy, guys. I'm excited. It is 12:31. Guess what? It is time for parenting today. Now, as always, if you want to be an amazing parent, and no, you do not have to be the biological parent of a child or, your ward in order to play your part. But if you know the fact that kids would grow to become adults and, their foundation will contribute to their output and their outcome in life, you will be fascinated, and you have to know that this show is for you. My name is Paula Chine, but guess what? Why I'm jumping in my seat, aside the fact that I love this show, I'm here and I have in the flesh Miss Yetty Williams, who happens to be the CEO of Lagos Mom, parenting expert extraordinaire, and someone who's so kind, always willing to listen and just encourage you. Welcome. It's good to have you. See, I feel like Christmas came early. When I heard Mrs. Williams is here, I'm like,
I tried to surprise you.
You surprised me. I'm still like, okay. Thank you for the mental roses. Thank you. But it's good to have you back here. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Now, I know that, I wouldn't lie, just knowing that you came in literally not so long ago, I can see that you're passionate about what you do, and that makes it different from every other person I've come across when it comes to parenting. You are passionate. It's not for the hell of it, and it's not for the money. It's for the goodwill of the masses. I must commend you for that. Thank you so much. There are times I DM her saying, oh my God, my head is in the wrong place. And she's always like, calm down. You want to talk? She always listens. Thank you. It's amazing to have you on here. You look good, by the way.
Oh, really? Well, thank you.
I know African. But really? Well, we're not vampires. I was going to say, are you a vampire? You're like you're reversing. You're not aging. You look amazing. It's good to have you here. Now, I know the last time we spoke, we're going to delve right into the topic of today shortly, but you made mention of something exciting, that you went back into the classrooms to gain more knowledge and more expertise. Do you mind telling us a little bit about it?
Absolutely. It's so interesting that when you find the topic you're interested in, learning is not a chore.
Wow.
I look now to some of the things I'm doing and how willing I am to continue to learn and go back into the classroom if need be. And I realized when I was a student, I wasn't this dedicated. So
why?
And for my children, I discussed that with them, that it's about lifelong learning. You can never say you know everything. So I'm back in a diploma program now on cyber psychology.
And one thing is, I like the fact that you always remind us that no matter what we know, the much we know from our parents, grandparents, the way African children should be raised, in quote, you always remind us that we live in a digital era, and more so the times have changed.
Yes, and I think with that, when you're a deep thinker and you're willing to go, when you look at sociology and when you look at psychology, they're looking at humans, they're looking at culture, they're looking at how we've evolved, how behaviors have changed. Where does culture come from? Why are we a certain way? How do the different industrial revolutions, how have they affected humanity from the first to the second to the third to the fourth? And we're in the fourth industrial revolution now today, which is digital, which is disruptive, which is why people are like, my God, the whole world is not really upside down. It's just that the evolution has gotten to a stage where things are happening so fast. So that's why the whole world feels like it's quote and unquote upside down. But imagine you then take the principles of how they lived in the 20s or 30s, for example, and say that is where I want to stay stuck. That's what I want to use in today's day and age.
That's not progress.
It's just not progress, and there's a disconnect. And I find that, unfortunately, for most people's families, for your marriages, for your parenting, those are usually the last things that get upgraded.
Wow.
Right? A new computer comes out. A new software, you're going to be saying, overnight software reboot, updates, all of those things. Even when you buy a phone, you're constantly having to update software. So we understand that for hardware to work properly, your software needs to be upgraded regularly. But somehow, when it comes to this area of life, our marriages, our parenting, ourselves, we're not really taught about the need.
Yeah, we're also taught to just do things the old way because it feels like the old way worked. So,
but if you don't examine, I think I forget which famous philosopher said it, that an unexamined life is not worth living. It's harsh, But if you don't examine your life, are you really thriving? And if you're not where you want to be, as I tell my clients, you are not a tree.
Oh.
You can move. However, you must be able to have examined where you are. Be honest. What's working? What's not working? Where do I want to go? Do you have a vision of where you want to go? Then you can start to say, how am I getting there? But we cannot sit in this, oh my God, things are just not going the way I want, or I wish things were the way they used to be. Even the Bible says, don't say the past days were best. You're not supposed to say, oh, the past was better.
Wow.
If you're here for now, you're here for the future, and you have to be able to live in that way. So I think those are things that make me, that drive how I live in everything that I do. And then it so happens, I'm very thankful that I'm doing something in the family space, and family is the bedrock of society.
Of course.
So if you get the family right,
society
if you get the children raised right in an environment that's enabling, before you talk about all the influence, social media, yes, all of those things are there, all of that noise is there, but what's their grounding to help them to thrive? So going back to this, to get this diploma, is because there's no argument anymore that human beings have forever changed because of digital.
Wow.
Because of social media. We're not the same
people
we're not.
And
I'm sure maybe in a century they'll look back and say, why were these people so funny? Why didn't they change as quickly as they should? Based on, and there's so many things now changing. Which we might get into some of it today, but there's certain things coming out from a legislator, from government, in terms of policies and all around online safety, because they are realizing the actual effect on children.
Wow.
So things and when the government starts to enter some of these spaces, that they are sitting on quite some intel that's making them say, we can't just leave this anymore.
Now, speaking about intel, elsewhere in the world, first world countries, in recent times, we've had the government make provision for, safer internet space for children. In Nigeria, I want to ask, the much that do you think that we're doing enough to protect children, such as child safety laws over the use, even things like revenge porn, grooming? We have them in Nigeria and in places around the world. Now, thankfully, we have our moral standard, but I feel like at this point, when a child is found, engaged in such, there's more of a hush, don't tell anyone about it, and let's see how we can refurbish or, just rehabilitate this child, as opposed to the laws that would bring these groomers and these villains to book. Do you think we're doing enough in Nigeria?
So nowhere in the world is doing enough.
Ah, really?
So I think it's important to note that nowhere in the world is doing enough.
Okay.
And for example, the UK just passed an online safety bill, which now puts certain rules in place and puts more onus on the tech companies.
Ah, great.
Which you almost look and you're like, duh, this took long enough. How come this is something that's just being passed? But the fact that I was telling my children that research really becomes mainstream. I mean, what's what I'm looking for? It comes into the mainstream of life,
the norm,
about 10 years after. So it sometimes takes a whole decade for research to really be done before it starts being disseminated to everybody. So I told my children, you don't want to be the guinea pig. So if it's going to take a decade for research to come, if you think about it, how old is social media really?
It's pretty young.
How old is Instagram? Instagram is about 10 years old.
Yes.
So if you look at, let's look at how long it's taken. When did the iPhone come out? I think they said it was 2007, thereabout.
2008, 2007.
And they've noticed certain trends that they can map to when the iPhone came out and when young people started getting their own devices. So they are now able to look at some of these studies that have been long term, and they are seeing some patterns there's no disputing it. So when we say, for example, is Nigeria doing enough? Nowhere is doing enough, because we've all had to react to having these tools thrust into our hands.
Wow.
Driving has an age. A 5-year-old cannot get behind you. No matter how smart you think your child is, you will not give them a car key at 10 and say, bye-bye, go to Third Milan Bridge, I hope you get home. So certain things we laugh and we're like, that's so ridiculous. Drugs, cigarettes, going to nightclubs, drinking, they have ages. But when it comes to this digital stuff, we're all still figuring it out. And unfortunately, we're figuring it out with young people being the guinea pigs, really. So when you do it like that, I found out with Gen Z, whatever you call them, they are not thinking. They are thinking children. The difference is most adults don't engage with them in a way that makes them say, when you put it like that, that's true, actually. Why should I be on Snapchat and need to have a streak? Do you know what a streak is? A streak. So, in fact, this conversation is just going in all directions.
What is it? I know that recently there's something on TikTok where people are sending, like, they're tapping. It's called a tap, and someone is doing, thank you. This one, that one, the flowers, the roses, eating. Yeah. And it's like they're giving them batches of money, but I'm not even on TikTok, so I don't know.
So with Snapchat, so for example, I tell parents, when people are like, I do this social media, I don't understand it, I don't like it, I don't get it. And I ask them, are your children on it? Yes, now, but you're not on it. So you have no clue what's going on there. How are you going to parent your child? You know when we say parenting in the e-village? Yes. Our conference we just had on Saturday, the whole topic was around parenting in the e-village. There are new rules of engagement. So you can't say, I don't like this stuff. I don't like tech. I'm sorry. You're in the digital age. You are raising digital natives who are growing up on the streets of social media. But then you're saying you don't like it, you don't get it, you don't want to get involved. How are you going to guide your children?
You have to be in the mix of it.
You have to have an idea to be able, you have to be native enough to the platforms to have an idea of what's going on. So let me quickly go back to Snapchat quickly, where so there's something called streaks on Snapchat, which basically means that every day that you send a photo to somebody who's your friend on Snapchat, you get a streak. And the streak just means how many days have you gone without breaking that ability that you and that person were sharing photos with each other. So they start to have bragging rights. Oh, I have 100 days, 100 streaks with this person. That means for 100 days you've been sharing a photo with somebody every day. So when I understood this, I said, so okay, so if you don't have the streak, what will happen?
Well, nothing. No one will die.
Okay, how many people are you having a streak with? Suddenly, when I think it was my daughter, when she started looking, she realized when we got to 20, she was like, that's a lot of people that every day. But think about what these apps are doing.
Yeah.
They are getting you conditioned to want to be on it every single day.
They make it look appealing.
But they're actually turning you into a bit of a junkie.
You get this adrenaline.
Because now you get this idea, oh my God, I haven't done a streak today. I have to go. So doing that reduce the power. I'm not saying, and I will never come from the angle of that's so silly. You should know nowadays, you people, once you do that, you just shut it down. Versus engaging with them and saying, so why is this important to you?
Wow.
If you don't have a streak, then what? And then trust me, I took it the other way. I said, so you know that Bible app? Let's have a streak for Jesus now.
Miss Yetty, I love that.
This is where you are streaking every day just to send photos. Let's have it. They're like, actually. So that's what I mean about how, first of all, parenting is not so challenging that, oh my God, no, it's how you approach it.
Okay.
Maybe it's because it's what I do, but I really think every family, every parent has the opportunity to be the kind of parent their child needs. But you need to be willing to unlearn. You need to be willing to get rid of the barriers that say, this is how I am, this is how I was raised, so therefore that is what I will continue to do. It doesn't work in this day and age.
I'm going to ask you very quickly, how did you come about this? I believe there should have been, like, even though it's an aunt, a mom, an ancestor, someone that was pretty interested in kids from your family. Yeah, because it might not be immediate. So maybe it's an ancestor. Do you know someone close to you, related to you by blood, that perhaps you can say you got this passion from? Where did it all start from? Because some days I want to ask you, don't you get overwhelmed
by
parenting and just figuring everything out? Because it's like there's so many of us that depend on you to figure it out. And yeah, you're like in the lab, you're like, okay, mix this and this, take this out. Don't you? Yeah.
Scientists who have said you mix a little bit of that. So it's a couple of things. I had an amazing childhood. My mom and dad were amazing. My mom, absolutely amazing. As I grew up, however, I realized that it wasn't everything that I wanted to repeat.
Okay.
And sometimes that's where your change comes from. Like, okay, I had a pretty good parent. My parents were amazing. However, there's some things I don't necessarily want to
subscribe
repeat.
To. Okay.
Right? And then I also think that, growing up as well, I decided I won't have 3 children. I don't know if I ever told you that.
Oh, because you were the middle child.
And I said, middle children suffer too much.
No, but it's amazing.
Is either I have 2 or I have 4.
Oh, why?
2, then it's only A or B. 4, there's no middle child.
Yeah, but what if you had twins as your second? What were you gonna do?
We'll go, and if I had two, then I'd have been three. I have one more. But when we now had a girl and a boy, we just said,
oh yeah, perfect.
I mean, you know,
perfect.
But so everyone, and I think it's really, you know, what they say, hurt people.
Oh yeah.
And heal people. When you've gone through something, you're like, I don't want to do that again. Guess what you're going to do? You're going to do exactly that. Your brain cannot not do something.
Wow, true.
So you can't say I will not do that. You have to fill it with what are you going to do.
What will be done in
so
place?
I think as a result, because like I said, I've always been very interested in psychology, in, you know, going back now, I realized in uni, my first year, I took some psychology courses that I loved. But because as a Nigerian girl, I said I'm going to study economics. It's economics and math.
Because, the way you switched, how were you able to pull it off? I look now and I'm like, but God never makes mistakes, and you always evolve. And that's why I'm very keen in my children understanding it's lifelong learning. It's never too old. It's never too late. And when you find a passion and you lead with that, the doors will open. To be honest, some days I'm scared. Is it too late once you hit the 30-year-old mark? And I met a 99-year-old
woman this summer. Okay. She'll be 100 next year. And as we were talking, she said, you know, I was asking, she has done so many fests at 99, you can imagine, if she lives in the US. And she said, how old am I? I told her. I'm not going to say my age on air. I told her how old. She now subtracted it from 100. And she said, multiply, okay, I'm 45. So she said, multiply 55 by 365. How many is that? So in my head, I was thinking, why is this sending me to school? She said, that's how many days you have to do whatever you want to do. And I'm talking to you from the perspective of a woman who's about to turn 100. So for me, at 45, you're a baby.
You're a baby girl.
You know, that conversation this summer was just like...
It opened your eyes up to so many
you're already on a path of, okay,
let's just see where it
continue.
goes.
But to see her say, baby girl, there's nothing... Yeah, she's Jamaican. She's like, baby girl, there's nothing you want to do, you can't do. Okay?
So you start leaving.
Whenever you want to do something, what is stopping you? Many times it's yourself. It's your limiting beliefs. It's your I can't. What would they say? Can I? Usually those are the things that are stopping yourself. And have found that for people, and I feel like I'm thriving in my life because I've always pushed the envelope. I've never said I can't.
Do you worry about opinions? Because that's something I struggle with. Well, how is it going to come off?
People are always going to give feedback. The only people that don't get feedback are people that are dead. And even when you're dead,
there will be.
They will still be saying, you know, maybe. So it's. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a constant walk. But when your vision and your passion is bigger than the concerns, you keep going, and then you keep scaffolding yourself with what you need. So someone like me, I need to know that I know.
So you can share what you know. So
that's when I can feel that, okay, I know what I'm kind of talking about. I'm not misleading you.
You're confident.
I'm confident that, you know what, this material I know. So for example, my daughter was asking me if this 10th annual conference we had on Saturday, was it my favorite? Because I was just buzzing about it. And I said, that's a very good question. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I think it's the fact that I can look and say I've been doing something for 10 years.
The beauty of putting in the work.
A decade of doing something in a space where it's not that I copied and pasted. It's not that, you know, I don't want to make it seem like it's small, but if you have a shop, you have good products, you price it right, your sales people must be friendly, people come to your shop. This was not something I can say, I'm parenting. Okay, I'm going to just take this model. I'm going to just download this. And then when I'm offering it to a service, this is how it was literally innovation, trying it, feedback. So, and I think that excitement of 10 years of doing something is not beans. So, even myself, I'm you know, you have to be able to tap yourself on the back. And you don't have to wait till it's 10. I hope you
gave yourself a gift.
Oh my God. I haven't given myself. That's a good idea. I'll give myself. But I'm always giving myself a gift. So, you know. Yeah. But the point is, we need to learn to appreciate how far we've gone. True. To acknowledge we don't know everything, but we are a work in progress.
When it comes to not knowing everything, I don't believe you on parenting. You seem like you know everything.
Nobody knows.
It's unless it's coming from you now, I believe. But if I'm asked to see this parenting hacks and the expertise, I'll say leave it to Miss Yetty. Leave it to the lady. She's cracked it all.
No, I believe that everybody has a mountain that they've been placed on.
Wow.
It's their calling. And then the beauty of life is when you tap into that calling. It's not what you went to school for. It's a hard thing. And then when you connect with it, you're like, wow, this unlocks something. And, I say that provision comes after obedience.
Oh, Miss Yetty, I'm very, very eager to know. What about single parents who are scared that they rely on, extended family to be able to play the role of two parents? Perhaps one parent is absent or late, and then, they're just feeling inadequate. There are days they feel like, oh, I've provided, I've done everything, but there's just that feeling of inadequacy that they can't shake off. What happened?
One of the things I always say is how you feel is how you feel.
Okay.
And as I tell my children, no emotion in itself is bad.
Okay.
An emotion is an indicator.
Okay.
Now, when you feel a certain way, whether inadequate, concerned, anxious, whatever you want to call it, and it kind of ties into the topic we're talking about kind of today about mental health in general, is that if you don't feel like you have control and agency to live the life you want to for whatever reason, and you don't dimension that into, okay, what exactly is lacking? Because I just feel, as a single parent, the example you've given, I just feel like I'm relying on people and I just don't know if I'm doing enough. Okay. What does doing enough look like for you? How would you feel that you're doing enough?
Maybe you're the one who can put your foot down and make the decision, and people are not going to be like, oh no, and in a bid for family to offer support, then they chip in their opinion, and sometimes it's not what you want for your child. And it's still good, but you feel like, oh, I want my child to go with my own opinion, my decision. But it's like everyone is on one bandwagon, you're the only one on another boat, and you just feel like, okay, you have to give in. Sometimes it makes you feel like, oh, am I ever going to get to the point that I know I'm making the best decision for my child and I should be the one to make the final decision? So it's quite a struggle. It just makes you feel inadequate, like, oh, you know what, you feel helpless or powerless, but then you know that these people love you, they love your child, and they've been supportive. So you don't want to ruffle feathers. You just give in, like, okay, it's fine.
You always ruffle feathers. While you're not ruffling their feathers, you're ruffling your feathers. So if you feel like I don't want to ruffle their feathers, I just go with what they say. But then you are ruffling your own internal feathers because you are not feeling that those decisions are the decisions that you really want
to go with.
So we'll go, but somebody's feathers are being ruffled. It's just, is it internal or is it somebody else?
Yeah.
And then we must come back to, what do you want? Wherever this hypothetical example that we're talking, I would sit with the person, what do you want? What are the areas where maybe you can accept you don't know better?
True.
So maybe there are some areas where if you have an educationist, for example, as an auntie, and she's telling you, what they are teaching this your child in science in school is inadequate to. Are you going to say, no, because I'm the single mother, I must be the one to have the final say? In that case, it would make sense.
Yeah, to listen to the education.
So I really believe in all of us. I also trained in CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, which means what? Catch your thoughts, check it, and then correct it. So catch it. Okay, why am I feeling like this? Check it. Is it feelings? Is it emotion? Was I triggered? Am I stressed? Is it okay, now correct. Okay, actually that auntie that said this school is bad is because they're an educationist, and you know what,
you might know better.
While it might not have been my choice, I see what they are saying about this education. So you must resolve that in your head so you can check the box and move on, and you don't carry that baggage with you that that's how they told me to change the school. I didn't really want to change the school, and then I had to change the school.
So you're
and
not
then
the victim.
You've just thrown that, you've just dumped all of that on yourself, and for what? So that's what I mean, that's what I think. I know it sounds easy, but the truth is that your brain is actually wants to support you.
Oh, wow.
So we need to be able to sit down and say, how am I feeling and why am I feeling this way? Because emotions are an indicator. If that's the only thing we can take away, your emotions are just an indicator of what is going on. If you're happy, it's an indicator of something good has happened. So once again, acknowledge that so you can say, wow, I felt so happy today because I got to speak to 10 people. I was able to help 5 parents with their parenting journey, and that's what made me feel so good. You know what? Wow, that is something you have coded in your brain, that I'm happy when I do this.
It gives a sense of fulfillment.
It gives a sense of fulfillment, and you can document it almost mentally.
Oh.
Why am I feeling so down today is because da. You can also dimension it. This is why I'm feeling bad. What happened? What could I have done different? Is there something positive in this experience I can? And I know it sounds like, please, who has time for all of this? Well, hello, you only have one life.
We all have time.
So if you don't make the time, nobody can make it for you.
Wow, thank you so much, Miss Yetty. I'm sorry I've taken much of your time with the question.
Okay.
But let's talk about today's topic, what parents need to know about mental health trends.
Yes.
You know, I won't lie to you, prior to, working here and being a part of this show, if anyone told me kids had mental health issues like depression, anxiety, I wouldn't have watered it down, but I'll be like, and when I ask a few people, like, when you hear, oh, my kid grew up, mostly people, Nigerians in the diaspora, my child will not come out of his or her room. They're talking back, they're slamming doors. They're saying, oh, mom, I'm having a panic attack. Daddy, you give me anxiety. You're always yelling. For the average Nigerian, is like, but you do everything for them now. You provide. Are these children spoiled? Which one? And some people say things like, that one is a Igbo problem. I know someone I dated in the past, I'll say, if you mention, oh, I'm feeling anxious, depressed, like, that's a white man thing, like, get it out of the way. So, but just knowing that these kids have feelings, however, knowing mental health trends, it's still a bit tricky for me. It's like, these are children, this is the best time of your life. You have almost everything figured out. You're not paying bills. You have food on your table. You have guidance, clothes on your body. So what could be bringing this about? Like, what could bring about this particular mental health trends in kids?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm wondering.
Yeah. When the very first psychologists showed up on the scene, had there been psychology before them?
No.
Everybody was just
been strange.
Living. Can you imagine what they must have seemed like? What's wrong with this one? This one has read too much book. That's why they have time to be analyzing. So my point being that there's a reason why there's science, and when it comes to humans and brain and how we think and how we feel, there's a science around it. This is not just based on feelings. So I want people to remember that I want to talk about mental health trends, what's going on in mental health. It is based on research, it is based on science, and it is based on lifestyle as well. So for example, depression, which is now, in fact, maybe now, the WHO says that by 2030, which is how many years ago, depression will be the leading cause of disability.
God.
And what is depression? It's a mix of different things. It's a mix of, genetics. So because you downplay it, does not mean that if genetically or it's a predisposition in a family line. I read a book recently by Martin Seligman, who's positive psychology, and he linked something. He said if a parent or a mother, for example, is depressed and she hasn't dealt with it, it's a higher chance her children will be depressed.
No.
So when we dismiss certain things, that's just a foreign thing. How come there are more Nigerians who live in Nigeria, who's never left Nigeria, who are also having mental health challenges? So this mental health thing we talk about, it doesn't look at your race or your color or where you're from. Mental health is the same as physical health. It's just that it's unseen.
And it's even more important.
It seems that it's unseen, but more and more people are coming out to see that a lot of physical effects are tied to your mental health.
True.
So I think we're evolving in a space of science and understanding how human beings feel and think. So when we say things like a child, what can a child have on their mind?